Yo, what is up, y'all? We're back here on another Wednesday for another episode of the Vols ATB podcast. Joined by my boys Drew and Alex here. Lo not here with us this week. She's out of town, kind of living her best life. So we're gonna, dive into some Ball State review. Look forward to the second game of the Johnny Majors Classic. Everyone's kind of hyped for that. All the energy's there. Obviously, starting off 1-0. Jump in 1-0. Start the season on a Thursday. Nice crowd at Neyland Stadium. Overall, get the W, 59-10 on Ball State. Drew, how was your Thursday?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was, yes, apologize for the background.
Oh, my God.
Let's go racing.
Holy shit.
What a dick. Great crowd for a Thursday night. I was beyond impressed. I thought there would maybe be about 80, 85, kind of like similar how to last year. I think they said it wound up being almost 93,000 people there. So for a Thursday night and all of the nightmare of the ticket situation that they have over there now, it was very impressive. And, Tennessee came out of the gates. Obviously, Ball State tried to, run that ridiculous trick play at the very first play of the game and completely backfired. And we just never looked back at that point. I think overall you can't really ask for much more. 38-0 at halftime. You wound up winning the game by 7 touchdowns. You covered the spread. So, overall, good performance. A couple things I tweak here and there, but we'll obviously get into that discussion later on. So, overall, very happy.
Yeah, you really can't be mad when you win by 7 touchdowns. Of course, like you said, Drew, there are things that I kind of wish we would have seen. Hopefully that they can tighten up and make look better for this weekend. Obviously, because this is a huge weekend. I think this weekend really sets the tone for the rest of the season going forward. And we find out a lot more about our team after this weekend. But definitely an all-around good weekend. Almost 600 yards of offense, 59 points, held them to 1 touchdown and a field goal. Can't be too mad about that. Obviously, we're going to find something to get mad about because that's us. But all in all, I like it.
Yeah, all around a sound really good win. Offensively, Hendon Hooker, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. Kind of took a little second to get in that groove. Got all of his wide receivers involved. You saw Jalen Hyatt, obviously, with the first touchdown. Brew McCoy having 3 good catches for 40-something yards there. Making some good comebacks to save Hooker on some, pretty bad balls, make the catch over the Ball State defenders. And then, obviously, Cedric Tillman, probably the most consistent of them all, but having a quiet day. All in all, I was really, happy with our offense. You saw Jabari Small. I thought Jalen Wright looked good. Dylan Sampson, true freshman, getting his first touchdown as an NCAA player. So, huge for that. Defensively, obviously, the big topic was not coming out with a sack. But I think that even though we didn't come out with a sack, these guys are probably getting the ball out faster than we are. The guy, their coach, being a former arena football player, he kind of schemed for that, being that kind of coaching staff. So props to that quarterback for getting the ball out. But I think even though we did, kind of when we got pressure, he was just throwing it out of balance anyway. I was kind of happy with our overall DB play. I think Jeremy Banks could have played better on the defensive side. Aaron Beasley, on the other hand, had a great game. Jawan Mitchell not dressing out, that's concerning. We can dive more into that. But all around, good side of football on both sides. 17 freshmen playing on both sides, making their ball debut. All around a good Thursday night to open up the season. So,
yeah, I wanted to ask both of you guys on this one. What was the one thing that kind of stood out for both of y'all? That game last Thursday. For me, and it'd be probably kind of a little bit surprising, but for me, it's how impressive Joe Milton looked when he came in the second half. That touchdown he had to Jimmy Callaway, that is probably the best throw he's ever had here. It's one of the best touchdowns, just pure dimes of the ball that I've seen in quite a while. But what was y'all's takeaways? One thing that really stood out to you in that game?
You got it on over.
Yeah, I guess to touch on the Joe Milton part, not only that pass, but then that one read option run where he had the option and then he cuts back and he goes, 25 yards on a broken play kind of. That was mad impressive to, change direction in the field, even though respectfully it's Ball State. But to have that kind of change of direction and speed and agility, we all knew athletically that he's had it, last year before he got, Hendon took over. Joe was on his crazy on his feet. Obviously, I think this is a better rusher just of how big he is and how powerful he can be. But I think, obviously kind of had to shift to, Dylan Sampson. But then a guy that, made a really, didn't do a lot, but made a really early appearance. Elijah Herring, the true freshman linebacker, he was out there on the first play when Tamarian got that pick. it shifted really well. I thought overall those freshmen played great. You had him, Tyree West. So just to see that 2022 class, I was kind of nervous to, hear that many people are contributing. It's kind of saying like, hey, how bad is our depth for our roster for these, 17 to 25 kids making this much of an impact? But man, they gave, 15 to 20 snaps in that first game, which was key. And, to have that kind of depth, for the future and what we're building on, that was, really good to see in my opinion. So.
So I'm gonna go with a little hooker TD, one where he rolled out to the left, he extended the play, and crossbody throw to Walker Merrill in the back of the end zone. Honestly, we were sitting here talking about Hyatt and Keaton and McCoy and Tillman, and we were talking about all the games that they were going to have. Left Walker Merrill off that list, and then he goes and gets a big touchdown right across the middle. And honestly, it's so impressive to me to watch a right-handed quarterback roll out left, throw it across body, and throw a dime right on the money, hit him in the chest. Just a beautiful throw. And honestly, those types of throws make you excited for what else is to come. Obviously, there were times when Hooker was a little bit off and Milton was also a little bit off. But again, it's still game one. But even with all of that, game one, we still had our clicks on offense, and we still had times where we looked unbeatable. And I think it was more of we held ourselves back at times, and it was Ball State actually stopping us. So that's also really encouraging going forward. But yeah, no, I just love that pass across the middle, across body as well.
Yeah, no, that was a good point, actually. I kind of somewhat remember that touchdown. But I did watch highlights. I mean, that's the thing, though. Like, he's made such a huge improvement on those, like, just awkward throws, rolling out of the pocket. I mean, compared to last year especially,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just shows – I mean, I think it shows how, how great the staff is, especially Josh Heupel, to show that he can have those improvement with the quarterbacks. I mean, I think probably as far as the 1-2 quarterbacks, Tennessee probably has the best. I mean, I never had any worry whatsoever of Joe Milton being in there like last week. Granted, it was Ball State, but dude, I mean, they didn't skip a beat. I mean, at least with your backups and your third strings, you kind of slow down things a little bit. But I mean, they were just running the same pace as they were with Hooker out there. So
yeah,
it's just exciting to see. It's a very exciting time here at Rocky Top.
I guess I kind of touch on that, improvement from last year. Kind of last year, that throwing the run to Javonte Payton in the end zone. I forgot which game it was where he just missed him, but, he was wide open. And then this year to see him roll out to the left, cross body like that, make a crazy throw to Walker Merrill that kind of got slept on. That was crazy to see. And then, to touch on the quarterbacks, we played 4 quarterbacks: Joe Milton, Hendon Hooker, Taven Jackson, and Navy Schuler even got in there. And, we still put up 59 points and had a crazy offensive game. So to say, even though we stopped the pace, probably even the third quarter after the first drive, and then we still put up, 59 points. Obviously, the turnover on, Taven Jackson's first drive, that wasn't really his fault. Just kind of seeing those young guys get in there. But, man, all in all, man, to see that, translate onto the field of, guys in the first year, their first, real class, that was crazy to see because you saw it offensively, defensively, defensive line with Tyree West and Jordan Phillips. It was just, crazy to see. But we didn't let up even with our younger guys in there. So,
yeah.
Another thing I really liked is that I had to go back and look at this, but we pitched the first half shutout, 38-zip at the end of the first half. And also, I'm pretty sure y'all have seen that video of Heupel. I don't know if it was before game or at halftime, but either way, it still got my blood boiling when he's like, don't look up at that damn scoreboard. You just keep going. It don't matter who's in front of you. Just keep playing. So just knowing that, at any point in time, we pull up to Ball State and we do expect to win that game by multiple touchdowns. But when your coach got that type of fire and that type of energy for that game, that just gets you excited for the rest of the season going forward. And it showed. I mean, yeah, we had our lulls in the first half, but then again, like we were saying last year, the second quarter was a big problem, and we ended up outscoring them 21-zip in the second quarter. So again, is that a thing, or is that to say that that's what's to come for the rest of the season? I don't know. We'll figure it out, but it's definitely promising early on. So also let's flip that question. Oh wait, sorry. Do you got something to say, Drew?
Oh no.
I was gonna say let's flip it and say, what would you like to see improved or changed going into the Pitt game?
Oh no. Well, I know what he's gonna say.
I mean, dude. Damn secondary. I mean,
you gotta say it.
I mean,
you gotta say it
specifically.
I'm not gonna single anyone out. Okay, I'm not that guy. All right. There's other guys.
Really, last week you weren't that guy.
I am not that guy. Okay, I would never do anything like that. But
I saw you get called out by somebody on Twitter for your take last week.
Well, we're not going to give him the fame that he wants. So we've already done that for us. So, but in all seriousness, though, like, it has to be the secondary. The one thing that was a takeaway for me is that even though they only had one touchdown, only held them to 10 points, we covered the spread, they were far too easy just driving down the field, getting 6-7 yards pass. I mean, John Paddock got over 250 yards of passing. We should not have the quarterback for Ball fucking State throw over 200 yards against us, okay? I mean, this man never even threw a touchdown in his entire career at Ball State until last Thursday. And now,
did he throw one?
Yeah, he did.
I don't even remember.
Almost ran for one too, but
I was probably gone by then. I was at the game, but I was gone. But
yeah, I mean, it was like with about 8 minutes left in the third quarter. I mean, I think it was like 59-7 at that point.
Okay.
But he threw one in. I mean, and I know that like we were playing very vanilla because we don't really want to show anything towards Pitt this weekend, and I trust Tim Banks and Rodney Gardner to have a few little tricks up their sleeves, and see those improvements. But that was my one big takeaway. And, I was originally going to say the defensive line just because we didn't record a sack. But, after watching that game again the other day, I mean, they were getting the ball off in less than 2 seconds. I mean, the quarterback was freaking terrified for his life every single time because the offensive line was collapsing. So I can't give them too much hate. But the secondary, I mean, they got stepped up. I mean, Willie Martinez and the boys have got to get shit together. I mean, there's no other way to describe it.
I guess I'll counter that. I mean, not really counter it, but like to point out also with the DBs, like you said, they were throwing it in 0.2 seconds and they were also throwing it -2 yards. So it's kind of hard to, like playing how far off our DB was playing. I don't know why they didn't press. Maybe we just didn't feel comfortable with it or was trying to, learn some things and not give anything up. But, giving them that space, obviously the arena football background for their head coach, playing that factor, playing quick, obviously scouting like they did all offseason, playing with that speed, I guess it translated on the field also in their game plan. But all in all, can't really be mad. Can't be mad at the D-line either because, I think Rodney Garner probably is pissed, even though understanding that they still got work out there. I thought the edge rushers were good. It was still good to see like young guys like James Pierce and Joshua Joseph, our 2 big edge rushers from last year's class. They were getting, pressure in that first game, even though granted, again, it's Ball State. But I guess my thing that I would say that I want to see get better would be Jabari Small. I don't know. I feel like he could have played better. I feel like because he was kind of making there was a lot of, runs where he just ran to the outside and kind of got stalled there for a little bit. He did have some good flashes and good cuts, but, finally taking that running back one role, you're not going to have Jalen Wright to, go 50-50. It probably has to be like 75-25 or, maybe 60-40-20 or whatever, 60-25-15, whatever with, Dylan Sampson. But I just thought that, he probably could have cut up a little better and probably had that, bigger, role. I know he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. The quote, this year, talking about last year's Pitt game going into this week was talking about having that chip on his shoulder. So I expect him to have a huge week 2 game. But I think that if you get that from, a guy like that, you can have that 3-headed rotation. That'd be my biggest preference right now for the offense. So
speaking, I actually got one for offense and defense. One thing that came to my mind for the offense is that I don't know if y'all picked up on this, but no tight end recorded a catch on Thursday. So as much as we were talking about Princeton Fant and Jacob Warren, I think the tight ends have to get involved because that opens up a whole other wrinkle in our offense. That opens up more weapons that you got to worry about. Obviously, right now we've got receivers and we've got running backs and we've got a quarterback. If we throw in a reliable tight end option in that fold, that just makes us that much more dangerous. We got to get them involved. I will say Milton did overthrow Hunter Salmon. Yeah, Hunter Salmon for a touchdown. That's fine. We kind of used to that, but like y'all said, he did play a great game and he had a dart to Keaton across the middle. So you miss some, you make some, that's all right, whatever. But still, tight ends got to get involved. And then, yeah, I'm with you, Drew. I was going to say the D-line. I was pissed about that for a minute, talking about the no sacks. But then I went back and looked, and we only gave up 74 rushing yards, 2.7 yards a carry. Mm-hmm. But then on that back end, we gave up 270 passing, about 10 yards of completion. I'm not singling somebody out, but again, it was one side of the field and one corner that led in tackles. And I just don't think that your corner should ever lead in tackles unless they are just a stud that's coming down and either like coming off a blitz or something. And I know we weren't doing that. So if your corner is leading in tackles, there's probably a reason. It's probably because they're throwing at him. So,
yeah. And if 2 of your corners, not just 1, 2.
My bad.
No, you're right. I mean, still the point is valid, but
it's there.
If you have 2 of your corners leading in tackles, we got problems. Okay.
One of those guys, though, respectfully, is a guy that definitely needs that playing experience young in
Yes.
his career.
Yes.
Okay,
No.
One of them.
No.
One of them.
not to single anyone out.
One of them.
Of course, not to single anyone out. We would never do such a thing at this show, obviously.
Never on
Right.
purpose.
We hold ourselves to a much higher standard. But to give that specific individual that you did mention on, without putting out his name, he is transitioning to a different position this year, and and the coaching staff does have a lot of faith in him on progressing and getting better and better. I mean, so there is hope on that end. It is Ball State. But for the rest of the boys, I mean, my God, guys. I mean, like, we got to get this situated by Saturday. Like, I mean,
I will say,
I'm terrified in that respect.
The energy, though, just like overall, I guess to kind of recap it, the energy overall, obviously seeing it on the SEC network last night with Heupel, at halftime, but also seeing the team in general and how they were kind of playing off. Even when the young guys got in, I thought like all the older guys, the veterans now on this team were, still intrigued and playing, kind of watching those young guys, seeing those guys that they're coaching up in practice, like they're going to be the future of this program. That was great to see. The guys like Jalen McCullough and, guys in the backfield with Trey Flowers, seeing guys like Cameron Miller get out there for a play or two, just to see that energy from the older guys and the future of the program, like this class in general. It was just great to see, even though Taven Jackson was out there. It was just an all-around W. I guess y'all want to dive in, and if we got any more Tennessee stuff, I don't know if y'all do. The other games around the nation, like what was going on in week 1?
I got a little bit, but if you want to go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, just before we transition to the other college football world, I do want to throw out this little juicy fact to both of you guys, right? Mm-hmm. So this was the third time last Thursday where Tennessee scored on the first offensive play of the game under Josh Heupel, with last year obviously being Kentucky. But the other one that we forget a lot all the time was the Pitt game last year too. Because remember, they had that block punt at the very
end,
and Jabari Small ran in for a 1-yard grab. But this is the 9th time under Heupel where we've been able to score a touchdown in under 30 seconds of an offensive possession. Which, think about think about that for a second. A couple of years ago, when we had that doofus over there from North Alabama as our head coach,
we didn't score in like a game. We didn't score some game.
Can you imagine?
I was hoping to score 17.
We'd be thankful to hit the 20s. I mean, much less scoring a touchdown under 30 seconds. So it just shows we already know how fast this offense is, but the fact that we've already scored 9 touchdowns within the past year under 30 seconds, I mean, that is just insane. And it's kind of like what, Pittsburgh's defensive line coach said earlier today, that they have it down to like a science. Heupel, and the staff does as far as this offense goes on just how fast it is. So it's just exciting. I mean, it's the only team that I've ever seen in my life where I couldn't even go and get a beer while the game's going on because I was afraid I was going to miss a touchdown. That's just how fast it is. So overall, though, I think we could all be excited about last Thursday's performance. Great crowd. It was also forgot to mention how beautiful was it that they lit up the Vols letters. I mean, that was
crazy. That was crazy. I got chills.
In person, I got so chilled because they did it with the Light It Up song, and I was kind of waiting for it. They didn't do it on the first drop, and then the second drop when it came on, everyone saw that first V light up, and the crowd is shook. Everyone got loud. It was crazy. And for the first time in a Vols football game, I didn't see half the crowd get up for a halftime. Everyone was locked into their seats, waiting for that moment. And even on the field, the Pride of the Southland forming the letters too. That was all W's. So in person, man, it was just great to see. I can't wait. I hope they do it every night game. I think our Akron's a 7:00 game as well. Mm-hmm. So that's going to even be a nice scene too, heading to the Florida Week of Front undefeated. So
also, it was a little weird seeing the new Jumbotron. I'm not going to lie. I
love it though.
It was it's beautiful. I mean, the whole entire party deck is amazing. Very impressive job that they've done. But I'm not going to lie, it was a little natural for me over there at Double L last Thursday just to naturally just turn around and go look at the Jumbotron again.
And see something?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, wait a minute, it's right here. So,
I didn't have to break my neck to turn around and
yeah,
one of them hey, what's that?
Man.
Yeah.
But I also point out too, man, I don't know how many people. Lowe literally had 20 people come up to her in the span of pregame to the whole game. That woman's famous in the Vols tailgate.
Nice.
Don't even know how.
Very
speaking of stats too, is I saw something that was I think this is the 4th time in Heupel's tenure at Tennessee that he scored 50 or more points in a game. So 4 out of his 14 games here, he's already scored over 50 points. And like we was just saying, we was hoping to score 20 a couple seasons back.
Exactly.
That's absolutely crazy. But also, speaking of Lowe and Brando both hit the nail on the head at 59-10.
We went crazy, bro.
Little bit of a pat on your back there. Drew was there at 49-10, and I was there at 49-14. So we were kind of all over the money right there with that one.
We all thought they would cover the spread, which is a good thing.
Me and Lowe were in our bag, bro. I don't even know how we did it.
You was doing
that was the live show too, right? Yeah, I know. That's when she got mad that I copied her thing, but I don't know, man. I just felt 59-10, bro. It was right.
No, y'all went nuts. There. So shout out y'all. Everybody's wanting to know we're all safe right now. So moving right along.
I know it doesn't count for an extra point, but getting it on the money, man, I feel like, I just don't want to do that punishment. I'm not trying to go out in public with no doll.
I've already had a discussion of that with my girlfriend, and it did not go well. Let's just say that she's really hoping that I do not lose this competition.
I'm kind of honestly like I wouldn't mind it. I think you just got to wear it. Honestly, you just got to accept it, and the more you embrace it, the better it is. So
take it to take her a nice, lovely dinner at the Olive Garden.
Red Lobster.
Red Lobster. Feed her the cheddar biscuits or the breadsticks at Olive Garden. I'm sure she would enjoy it. So.
Oh man.
All right. What was we were going to talk about? Something about.
Yeah, I guess the week 1 game. Before we dive into Pitt with our guest who's going to join us shortly, I wanted to dive into the week 1 games. Obviously, the big one in the conference was Florida and Utah at night. Florida, getting the interception in the end zone to win that game. I also want to dive into what's going down out there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because that is my favorite thing going on in the world right now. My best friend Lee, he's an LSU diehard fan, so just to see him talk, Brian Kelly as God mode, and to make that final game decision coming into crunch time. I wanted to cover those 2 games, but week 1 all around, what was y'all's thoughts around the nation?
Yeah, there was a lot of great games I hate to say it, but Florida Utah was an outstanding game to watch.
Classic.
Even Ohio State Notre Dame was a really entertaining game to watch too, and of course, Florida State LSU. I was kind of impressed a little bit how Arkansas played. Their defense kind of really stood, made some big time, 4th down stands at the very end. And I think that was a big win for them against Cincinnati. This is not the same Cincinnati team as last year, but still a very respectable, and I think at the very end will be a top 25 team. Man, my other takeaways. Good Lord, LSU fucking sucks, man. Oh my God. If we lose this team in October, if we lose to them, we'll never beat them again.
You just know they're hitting their stride, though. They're hitting their stride when we play them.
I've never seen, I've seen a lot of bad offensive lines as a Tennessee fan, specifically 2013, 2014, when, doofus Derek Daly didn't sign a single offensive line in 2012. I have never seen an offensive line as bad as that. Jaden Daniels was running for his life the entire time.
Every play.
To show how retarded that game was, to muff the punt with 2 minutes left, and then for Florida State to go all the way down the 1 yard line, fumble it there as well, for LSU to drive 99 yards to potentially tie it just for a blocked extra point. Both of those teams are terrible, but LSU, and they're screwed too. I looked it up today, just out of curiosity. Brian Kelly's buyout, he got fired this year. Would be it will be a little bit over $81 million.
Wow.
They would have to wait for at least 5 to 6 years to get it under 40 million. Yeah. They are screwed. They are beyond screwed. And it's bad. It's bad after a year or two where the media is they start getting a little testy. But when you have reporters already showing up late to your press conferences and saying, well, maybe if you could win, I would be here on time. That is bad of bad. I've never seen anything like that in my life. So really unfortunate for them. I was really hoping that I would be the same situation in Florida, but of course it's Florida. They always find a way to be able to be good again when they have no business being good. So, but yeah, LSU, absolutely awful.
The thing that stood out to me about that game is it literally looked like both teams wanted to lose. So, like you said, LSU muffs the punt with 2 minutes left. Then Florida State on the 1, all they had to do was hand it off.
Mm-hmm.
But they wanted to throw a toss. I was like, the last thing that you want to do is throw a toss, because what happens when you toss it? You have a higher chance of fumbling. What does he do? He fumbles. Like I just don't know why you're running a toss. Anyways, so I'm like, okay, whatever, 120. In LSU fashion, they're probably going to go down here, score it, tie it up, and like make this stuff fun. So then, of course, they go down, they score that touchdown. So then lining up that PAT, Florida State has 7 on one side and 4 on the other, and LSU did not adjust at all. So one dude just breaks through the line, gets an easy hand on the ball, and obviously blocks the punt or blocks that PAT, and then they win. It just like the whole like last 2 to 3 minutes just confused the crap out of me in terms of like a football standpoint, because I'm like, I don't know why you're doing what you're doing, but zero of it makes sense. I don't know that it was fun to watch. Don't get me wrong, but like at least we weren't a part of it. Yeah, Drew gone.
Yeah, no. I guess my two takes of the game were like, one, AR-15 is he's him. That offense flowed through him in his running game, going in late and then getting the seal on the defense. I thought that was a huge. Obviously, they're going to get a win over Kentucky, in my opinion, and then we'll see what happens in a few weeks there. But to see Brian Kelly and all those things and holding up the yell in the recruiting videos, and it's all coming back to like kind of backfire now. And seeing all the memes and then seeing that reporter, man, like that's just an awful start in Baton Rouge. I think he's a great football coach. I think he's going to last there for the long run at LSU. But dang, it's going to be a crazy story to like the national media when like the top big thing right now is like your first game and to make those kind of jokes, and it's already kind of backfiring. Obviously, both teams are on our schedule, so I kind of wanted to point that out and mention those two. But I think obviously when we play them, it's Tennessee. A lot of these teams are going to be better off. But I guess, Drew, if you kind of wanted to hop in here, we're going to take it into a new segment going into week 2.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we're all going to transition to the Pitt game. I think we could all agree that this is probably the biggest game in the Josh Heupel era. This is really a make or break for him to put Tennessee back on the national map. Obviously, we know that we're back in the top 25 since 2020. But to give us a little bit more insight about Pittsburgh and what's going on over there, we got Karl Ludwig from Pittsburgh Sports Now, who covers Pitt football and recruiting. Karl, thanks for joining us, man. Greatly appreciate it, taking the time out of your day. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate being on tonight. It's a pleasure to talk some SEC ball tonight. I know it's the first ever SEC opponent at Acrisure Stadium, so that's gonna be a blast on Saturday.
Wow, I didn't really know that.
I didn't know that either.
First off, how hard is it for you to call it Acrisure instead of Hines? I mean,
I find myself almost every day going, I'm heading down to Hines Acrisure Stadium today. It feels wrong. It feels wrong. I mean, they paid for it, they earned it, but like it feels wrong still.
It just seems odd to just to have the acronym for your stadium now known as the ASS.
I mean, the players embraced it. They call it the AC. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet, but I mean, make the most of what you got, I guess. I mean, Acrisure Stadium, not the best name, but the AC could be worse, I guess. It's no Heinz Field, but
right. I mean,
we gotta move on, I guess.
Definitely doesn't roll off the tongue for sure, but to take it in a little bit more of a serious conversation, though, I mean, this is a really big matchup. 2 top 25 teams. Obviously, Johnny Majors Classic, got to pay homage to one of the greatest coaches in Tennessee history, and I'm sure you could argue the same with him at Pitt as well. Vols being a 6.5-point favorite going in, which I think we could all agree is a little bit surprising. I mean, I wouldn't really put any money on that whatsoever personally. But there is a lot of questions about Pitt, so give a little bit of rundown for us and our listeners as well about what should we expect, what are the takeaways from Pitt's big win over West Virginia, and like the areas of concern as well for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously the big news is obviously with Kenny Pickett gone, Jordan Addison's gone. I mean, if you lose a Heisman third place finisher and a Blitnikoff winner, the offense is going to have some issues, obviously. But Pitt did reload. They got USC's Keaton Slovis, who is a starter now. They brought in a freshman All-American in Akron's Kenante Mumpfield. They brought in a former Vol in Bub Means, who went to La Tech. He's here now. He's a big role in the offense. And they brought in Frank Cignetti Jr. As the new offensive coordinator. He spent the last 2 years at Boston College, and his offense is really more run emphasized than the old offense under Mark Whipple. Not to say that it's a run heavy offense, but it's more balanced. I think we all know Kenny Pickett, the offense ran through him. It was his offense. He threw the ball when he wanted to. And it worked. It was like 40 points a game. You can't argue with that. So the offense now is different, obviously, but it's more balanced. Against West Virginia, it was about even, the split with running and passing. They tried to establish the run early against West Virginia, and it didn't quite work out. The offense really was kind of it didn't really click until the fourth quarter. It was more of a filling out process throughout much of the game, where it was kind of just Frank Cignetti trying to find out what he had in his players and what the players had in him, and it really didn't click. I mean, they scored 38 points, so it wasn't all bad, but it didn't really click until the very end of the game there. And I think against Tennessee, we're going to see a new offense again. I mean, the offense against West Virginia, they tried to establish the run, and it'll be the same against Tennessee, but I think we'll see more of a passing attack against Tennessee. I know Tennessee lost some cornerbacks. They had the same safety duo from last season, but I think we'll see much more of a emphasis to push the ball downfield this week. I mean, they have some talented pass catchers. They have a good tight end. The O-line had a tough week against West Virginia, and they have a hunger to kind of push back and prove that that was a blip on the radar. So, I mean, the offense there are still questions to be answered, and I think the Tennessee game will be huge in kind of figuring out what the offense and who the offense is this season. It's going to be interesting to see how they match up here.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that last drive, like Caden Slavis going 5 for 5, that early in the game, kind of some troubles there, kind of getting used to it, got sacked 5 times.
Yeah, he did.
5 for 5 on that last drive, perfect. Gave him a lot of confidence. Obviously, the defense goes out there, gets the pick 6 to kind of give him the lead there. I feel like that was huge for that offense going into week 1. Taking it to had Mark Whipple, and then now going to this new approach. That's the old day approach, actually, of kind of trying to run the ball, an extra tight end out there. You started off the game with 2 tight ends, a running back, and 1 receiver out there. A whole different scheme than last year under Whipple. Kind of going into this week, I know the defensive lineman coach today was talking about how fast our tempo is, that we're even faster this year, and that it's like a whole science behind it and everything. Tennessee, if they can get up a couple touchdowns and, with this new offense, what's kind of going to be Pitt's approach, defensively and offensively to kind of scheme for Tennessee with the tempo? Is it going to be the same thing? Because, yeah, Patrick Narduzzi and Josh Heupel have a lot of history, but it's going to be a different Tennessee Josh Heupel than it was last year, 14 games in than 1 game in.
Right, yeah, and I think that's the tempo is going to be a problem for Pitt. I mean, that 12 seconds from to snap the ball is very, very, very fast. And Pitt's defense did struggle against the run against West Virginia. The front 4 is still very talented, but the linebackers, aside from Savasi and Dennis in the middle, it's two guys who are making their first start at Pitt. Bengali Kamara, first start at Pitt. Shane Simon, first start at Pitt. I mean, it's 2 guys who are still pretty new, pretty inexperienced in playing in Pat Narduzzi's defense, and it showed against West Virginia. And that was an emphasis in practice this week, where they had to get better at being where they need to be on the field pre-snap to fill those holes, to make the right decisions and fill in the gap. And with a faster offense in Tennessee, they'll be tested early and often against this offense here. So it'll be interesting to see that. I think it'll be a better performance from the defense this week. They were kind of punched in the mouth by West Virginia a little bit. It was not what they expected, not what they wanted, and they do have the desire to be better. I mean, his defense is the whole thing he wants to do is stop the run. That's what he wants to do every game. He wants to stop the run, and that leaves his secondary kind of open to longer pass plays at times. So, I mean, if they can get those matchups out wide, I mean, they stretch the field all the way across the field. So if they can get those plays out wide, they'll have shots there. And it really comes down to if Pitt can kind of right those errors in the middle, stop the run. And if they can't do that, then it could be a long day for Pitt's defense.
Yeah, I guess my whole thing on that before I let Alex, jump in here, was that every meeting, with Narduzzi and Heupel, it's been that Heupel's had actually less yards, surprisingly or not, with how he kind of goes out there and throws the tempo out at everyone else. It seems like Narduzzi kind of has a way to kind of get better and better each appearance what they have. But then last year also, the first time playing in Tennessee, it was Joe Milton out there. And there was a lot of missed opportunities that could have put, Tennessee up early. So I'm definitely interested to see how that kind of rolls with it, with the new approach with the Pitt offense. And if Tennessee does get up early, or vice versa with how like it'll help if Tennessee's down early and Caden Slovis goes out there and his ball's out or they get up early and the run game does get started, because I know y'all returned like what 3 leading rushers or 3 best backs last year.
The top 4 backs are all back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely expect, Tennessee having trouble on the D line, trying to find their identity at linebacker. I definitely expect that run game to at least be alive. Definitely, a smash mouth matchup going into the second half of Johnny Majors Classic. So, Alex.
Yeah, I'm glad you alluded to the linebackers, Brando, because like we just heard, Juwan Mitchell's out for this game as well. So I kind of want to get your take, Karl, on if Pitt has anybody out and kind of what that means for y'all going forward this weekend.
Yeah, so entering the game against West Virginia, the right tackle Gabe Hoy, he was a non-participant in the spring, didn't do it. He was not at all involved in the spring. He was out there this summer, he didn't practice though, and he dressed week 1, but he didn't play. And we're not quite sure what his status is. I mean, he had a lower body injury, but I would be doubtful he'll play against Tennessee. And that's just kind of part of the course at this point. But against West Virginia, defensive captain D-end Desmond Alexander left with an arm injury. His status is also still undetermined. And then late in the fourth quarter, Rodney Hammond, one of those running backs, also suffered a leg injury. So he was in a boot after the game. He was wearing a brace on his ankle throughout practice this week, and he's also still kind of undetermined. And that's 3 big players who could be out for the game, especially Hammond, who kind of had like a breakout game against West Virginia. I mean, he had 75 on the ground and 2 touchdowns. He had a 50-yard catch, swing pass, catch and run. I mean, he's part of a very deep running backs room, but he really is a player who could be missed if he does miss time against Tennessee. So there's a couple guys who we're watching for to see if they'll play, and they're still kind of on the fence as of right now.
And your captain that you was talking about, is he a D lineman or? Yeah,
he's D-end. Yeah, Desmond Alexander, he plays D-end. He's one of their best run stoppers on the defense. He was he had a right arm injury.
Gotcha.
Against West Virginia, and so he's also kind of still undetermined. So as of right now, there are 3 guys. Oh, and also Shane Brandon George. He's the backup middle linebacker for Pitt. He got dinged up a little bit in camp, and he did not dress against West Virginia. So he's also someone who's questionable. So there's a few guys who are questionable at this point in time.
Gotcha. Drew?
Yeah. I guess like one question that we could throw is like, obviously for us is like we have a lot of concerns, especially with our secondary, or maybe I do probably more than anyone else. But what are the big areas of concerns for you? Because, obviously losing, Rodney Hammond Jr. is a big, that's a big loss if he is going to be out on Saturday, considering, he had almost 130 yards of all scrimmage yards. But, also as well, the offensive line did allow 5 sacks, though, against a West Virginia defensive line that is obviously much improved from last year, but still not really considered one of the more higher, best defensive lines in the Big 12. So what is the one big area of concern for you going into this game on Saturday?
Well, if you go one area for both sides, I go probably the offense. So the offensive line did allow 5 sacks, but part of that was Caden Slovis's kind of processing and recognition. He played himself into 3 or 4 sacks that game. I mean, first game at Pitt, he's still getting used to that system there, but he held on the ball for far too long at times, and there were plays where he should have thrown the ball away, and he just kind of tried to make plays happen that as a veteran, he should know better than that. And there might have been some receiver errors down the field. There might have been some miscommunications there, but the line was definitely not what it should be against West Virginia, and they know that. The whole thing from Coach Dave Borbley, the line coach, was the standard was not met. And despite a poor game, despite a shitty game, as Narduzzi said throughout his Monday press conference, they got the win, but there's still a lot to work with. And it's a veteran offensive line room. I mean, they played over 130 games starts throughout their time together. So that's not as much of an issue. The main issue that I have right now is the run defense. And against the Mountaineers, they had a true freshman tight end come out and run for 125 yards on 9 carries. He averaged 19 yards a carry. as a true freshman tight end from I don't even know where. It's two young linebackers outside who will have to really, really key in on this deep. I mean, because the problem with Tennessee is how fast they operate. The linebackers will have to be in position perfectly every play just to stuff those gaps. And if they're not, I know it's a question mark running back room a little bit. I mean, I'm not sure if they have like the guy yet, but I didn't think West Virginia did either, and they had a true freshman run for 125 yards. So if they cannot be better at making those reads and being more precise and more confident in making those tackles, it could be a very, very long day if Hendon Hooker is able to stretch the field too. I mean, Pitt's defense is made to stop the run. If they can't do that against Tennessee, it's gonna be a very, very long day.
No, I think that's a great point when you talk about, getting line back up with the tempo and everything, because last year they were pretty able to stop the running back room pretty well. Obviously, that's when Tyon, Evans kind of went down. He wasn't there. Having an early Jalen Wright in his first ever collegiate game played last year. This year, our lead guy he's Jabari Small. And then you got backup Jalen Wright this year 2 in college, and then also freshman emerging Dylan Sampson. When you point out like that, Hendon coming off the 2, rushing thing, I'll definitely be interested to see how they kind of gaps. When you said they were also already practicing week 1 of lining up in those right spots and getting lined up, I'll definitely be excited to see that, because even Josh Heupel would admit that this offense, even though the passing, game is in big chunk plays, it thrives in that, running offense. So if that can happen, I can definitely see that. I guess on our side of things, would be obvious from last week, the defensive line, just, getting no pressure, even though they got a lot of pressure, no sacks, and then playing against an offensive line that's, all brought back, had a rough week 1, has a chip on their shoulder to have a good week 2 in, their home stadium again. I'm definitely worried probably about our defensive line, in my opinion. So,
Karl, I got a question for you. Do you think coming off like an emotional victory like West Virginia, do you think there's going to be any kind of hangover for y'all going into hosting us this weekend, or do you think y'all are just going to be ready to play from the jump?
Well, that's been a problem in the past. I mean, look at last season especially. They beat last year after the win in Knoxville. They come back and they lose to Western Michigan. They beat Clemson at home, lose next week to Miami. So there is a precedent of winning these big games and then kind of blowing it the next week. And that's been discussed, it's been talked about. I mean, consistency, playing the right way, looking at every opponent as a chance to go 1-0. I mean, they're saying all the right things after practice, after games, but until you come out and do it and prove that you won't suffer that. I mean, they've learned. They've had chances to learn. Last season they had 2 chances where even against Tennessee, they had a chance to come back and beat Western Michigan. It didn't happen. So it's a very veteran team, and a lot of veterans were there last season to learn the lesson. But until they can prove it and bounce back from an emotional week 1 win against Tennessee at home this time, even you just don't know. Obviously, they're aware of it. They've discussed it at length. They know what's at stake here. I mean, this is a win here against Tennessee. They'll be borderline top 10 in the country, and then they have a very easy ACC schedule after that, where their next real test is the last week of the season against Miami. So a win here sets them up for a potential dark horse playoff run, as crazy as it sounds. So, I mean, they know what's at stake here. They know that they've had this chance last season as early as last season, and they couldn't do it. So that's a major test for Pitt this season, to test the resolve, to test their consistency. So it'll be very interesting to watch on Saturday.
Oh, man. Yeah. I love Pat Narduzzi. He kind of had him fired up, the press conference already, coming off that huge backyard brawl win. And then also, talking about, going into this week, kind of, getting the locker room fired up with how he talks to him and, kind of degrade them and make them get more out of him. I think you also had a lot of help from the stadium. I forgot already the name. I can't pronounce it. I always want to call it Heinz Field.
Acrisure.
Yeah, Acrisure Stadium. It was, like 75-25 Pitt to West Virginia. It kind of felt like the lower bowl was really crowded with Pitt fans. Fired up from everything you kind of see on the camera. West Virginia kind of up there, more in the upper section, but still kind of showed out all around, though the crowd was pretty fired up. I guess this week, the main talk on the Tennessee kind of side of things, I don't know if you have any input on this or not, but, the allotment that was kind of offered at Tennessee after last year, it was like a crazy, like 2,200 seats they got offered y'all in the lower bowl. I think it was like 400 in the lower bowl for our band mostly, but like most of the top was like up top. Is that kind of like what like Pitt does, like for like big games, like environment games, like opponents coming in, like fan
Yeah,
wise?
yeah. I don't think there's any slight Tennessee or anything. I think it's just kind of the way they operate with their ticketing. I know there's a lot of season ticket renewals, so there's a lot of people coming back. I did see that the numbers were a little low, but I can't really speak to what the typical. I guess I should probably look into it and see what the typical allowance is for opposing fans. But I think that's about what the usual allowance is on a per game basis, especially non-conference.
I mean, either way, I think that place is going to be rocking. Drew, I'll let you go after this. Sorry. But I think I saw a thing that was also like the biggest like sporting event in Pittsburgh. Like most
it was 70,000, 622, I think, total.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy.
That was the biggest sporting event in Pittsburgh sports history, any team. So
wow,
that was the biggest game ever. So the fans showed out for that one.
Yeah, I'm super excited, so. I guess probably the next question I would say is because if I'm not mistaken, Pitt's played basically at Acrisure Stadium for almost 20 years now. Has Pitt just because a lot of us don't really know much about Pitt football and really anything outside of the SEC, if we're going to be honest. Have they ever thought about maybe having an on-campus stadium or having their own stadium, or like what's that kind of situation?
Yeah, I mean they used to have an on-campus stadium way back in the day, and then they played at Three Rivers for a little bit. And the on-campus crowd is definitely a very, very vocal contingent. A lot of people want to have a stadium in Oakland, but it's just not going to happen. Oakland's a very, very congested. Well, Oakland is that's where Pitt is in Pittsburgh. Oakland is the little college town kind of in the actual city. And at one time there was a stadium there, Pitt Stadium, and that was years ago. And I know there's a very vocal kind of contingent of fans who want to have that brought back to Pitt, to Oakland, and have that like on campus kind of make it like a more of a college town kind of vibe, but I don't see it happening. And I think playing at Acrisure and having that kind of that tie-in with Pittsburgh and the Steelers is, from all the recruits I've talked to, all of them, they bring up, oh man, my biggest takeaway, I watched the Steelers practice. I saw Steve, I saw Mike Tomlin, I saw Najee Harris, and the recruits like that.
Yeah,
they like having that proximity. They like having the same name recognition as the Steelers do, and that doesn't have much to do with the stadium rights or anything. But that's definitely something that recruits look into. The fan base might not like that at times, but it's not Heinz Field. Acrisure Stadium is not that far from Oakland.
I definitely think it's a good fit.
Yeah. I mean, also as well, I mean, that's a huge recruiting tactic, especially to have Kenny Pickett to play for the Steelers as well.
That's definitely that was a kind of perfect storm there with Kenny Pickett for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess also the other thing is, and Karl, you got to give me your general honest opinion on this, all right? Like, you could tell us that you think it's going to be like 90-10 Pitt fans. I want an honest answer from Karl. What do you think the ratio is going to be between Pitt and Tennessee on Saturday?
Well, just probably based off of what we saw from last week, it was about 80-20, 75-25. I'd probably go 90-10. I'm not sure how well Tennessee fans travel. I haven't watched. I've never really seen it in a Tennessee away game personally, but I mean, they'll have a presence there, I'm sure. I've never seen Tennessee at an away game.
Karl, I'll be honest with you. If we play on the moon, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to get 5,000 people on the moon. Like that's how ridiculous this fan base is. But I'm very jealous of a lot of people that are be able to make this trip. I mean, I had this on my bucket list for years. Just unfortunately, just couldn't make it happen this year. But being able to watch the Vols play, in Acrisure, home of the Steelers, it's going to be like an unbelievable atmosphere. And obviously, it's going to be great exposure for both programs, especially being on 3:30.
Yeah, prime time 3:30 game on ABC. It should be a perfect day for it too. I think I last saw it was 80 degrees and sunny at kickoff. It should be a perfect game for it. Absolutely.
I think all the eyes in the nation will be on this game because I saw that it's on ABC, but the CBS game, the ESPN game, and the Fox game, it's just like not really that much competition for the 3:30 slot. And then also I think ESPN's having tennis on, so I think
Yeah, they're
all eyes.
having tennis
Yeah,
on during the
yeah,
season. I mean,
I saw that. I saw that tweet. So all
it's gonna
eyes are
have-
going to be on this Tennessee Pitt game.
everyone's watching this game for sure.
Yeah. Everyone's saying Kentucky Florida is the best top 25 matchup. I just think that's a mid matchup. I think this is obviously the best matchup for week 2, in my opinion. Obviously, you got Alabama, Texas there. But Tennessee Pitt, Johnny Majors Classic, kind of the finale. No more scheduled games for this kind of thing. And then also honoring the great Johnny Majors, man. The guy that, put both teams on the map and changed the trajectory in full. So wouldn't be here without, the great Johnny. And I'm super excited, man. I guess the final thing I want to get from Karl, just his overall prediction for the game. Obviously, it's okay if you homer Pitt. I know you think Pitt's going to win. I'm kind of nervous because last time on the show, we had a guess and I predicted someone to win. We definitely lost to Purdue. So I just want to get your kind of take on the final way out.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone back and forth a bit on this prediction. I think my final prediction for this game will be 41-31 Tennessee.
Interesting.
I think Tennessee pulls it out. I think it'll be a high-scoring game.
And they cover the spread. You take us covering the spread.
Oh my God.
Spread's at -6.5.
I think this is Pitt's toughest game of the year, in my opinion.
Wow.
Tennessee right now is built to beat Pitt.
Man, well,
play the game in November. Maybe it's a little different.
right.
As of right now, Tennessee is built to their offense is probably just too fast and too quick to keep up right now with the way Pitt is still kind of moving along with the install of the new players and the new offense. So 41-31.
You want to counter that, Drew, and say Pitt wins?
I mean, Karl, I was ready to argue with you immediately, but I'm left speechless over here. I don't.
What do you have? What's your score prediction?
I mean, I don't know if we're going to cover the spread. I would, I think I said on our kickoff show, it was a few weeks ago, I think I said 38-32 or something similar like that.
44-38.
34-38?
44-38.
Yep. Yeah. I would still say we'd probably score. I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game because I just have zero faith in our secondary, and our linebackers still got a lot of room for improvement. So I'm sure we'll be able to give up a few big plays. But I just, I think a lot of Tennessee fans would be disappointed if we come off of a loss because this is probably, and it's like what I was mentioning with Brando and Alex, this is probably the biggest game under Josh Heupel era because this is the first time probably since 2015 Oklahoma where we're playing a Power 5 conference team that's ranked, and we actually have a shot at beating them. So, it would be a huge win. I think it'd speak volumes for Heupel, and obviously it's kind of like it sets the tone for the rest of the season for both teans, I feel like.
It should be a very good game, I'd say. I think both teams have a clear path to victory. I wouldn't be surprised with a win for either side.
Right.
I think both teams have their chance to get to the win. It should be I think it'll go down to the wire. I think we'll have like a play like against West Virginia, we'll have a late play kind of really cement who wins the game.
Yeah. I think honestly that this is a huge win for both teams. Obviously, I think if Pitt wins this game, they're kind of set up for that like dark horse playoff picture, like you said, Karl. That this is like everything past this game. Like this is obviously like the toughest game of the season for y'all. But I think also for Tennessee, it's kind of what's going to make us jump as a program in the recruiting rankings and also as a football program as a whole under Heupel. Like getting that 9-3, it's personal this year. Like you have to do that and make that year with all the depth you're going to lose after this year. I think it's going to be like a huge win. I'm very curious to see how the first quarter, goes on with Tennessee having the biggest gap in first quarter point differentials. Last week left a lot of, points on the field in Neyland Stadium. I want to see like how Hendon Hooker goes out there and balls. Obviously, all new Hendon Hooker playing against a very experienced Pat Narduzzi defense. My Instagram, I think I put my prediction was 42-31 on the Vols Instagram. So I'm going to stick with that, 42-31. I think Pitt scores in this defense. I don't think the defense is there yet, but I think they get that late stop that's going to, maybe stop and get that, 11-point or 10-point win. So I think I'm going to take the Vols.
Yeah, reviewing the scores from the preseason show we had, Drew, you had 44-38. Brando, you had 42-24. Lowe also had 42-24, and I went more conservative. I went 35-31. I actually do kind of, now looking at it, I feel like offenses are going to kind of blow up more in this one than than I kind of predicted earlier. So I could see it going into that 42-38 range, something like that. But I do think the Vols win, and I think we have to win this one. Pitt had their season last year. I think it's fine that we get a turn. But I do think that this game, like you were saying, Drew, it definitely sets the tone for the rest of the season. I think winning this game puts us more on our way to our ceiling of 9-3, and then if we lose it, it pushes us more to our floor of 7-5. So I mean, like you said, you can't repeat it enough. This game is very important for Heupel's tenure here, and it'll either make or break it won't make or break his coaching job. I will say it will definitely help the argument to keep him or turn the hot seat on. So it's definitely important. It's important for both sides, but obviously Pat Narduzzi, didn't he just sign an extension recently?
Yeah, he's there for a while now.
I was going to say, so he's fine. So he's still got money coming in. He's got a job at the end of the day. Heupel's still working for his, but I would love to see the Vols go on the road and get a big top 25 win on Saturday.
Absolutely. Well, Karl, it was an absolute pleasure. Thanks for talking to us. This was awesome. It's always great to get, the opposition's, insight, what their viewpoints are and what they see as Tennessee as a whole. So we greatly appreciate you taking your time of your day, join us here for a little bit, talk a little football, and hopefully, who knows, hopefully we'll have another Johnny Majors Classic in the next few years. So
absolutely. Yeah. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. Looking forward to Saturday for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if y'all want to go follow Karl, it's at Ludwig Karl 8 on his personal. Also, you can follow Pittsburgh Sports Now at PGH Sports Now. I love everything Pitt's doing. I love the connection with the Johnny Majors thing. I think Narduzzi's a hell of a coach. Winning the awards for his defense, it's no coincidence, and there's no coincidence that he's been there 6 years. I think the ACC, after watching Georgia Tech, Clemson's kind of wide open. I think a huge year could be at stake. There's a lot of unhidden talent on that Pitt roster just because of, Kenny Pickett, Jordan Addison leaving. I think this team is definitely a dark horse. And Karl, thank you for joining us, man. Obviously, like Drew said, great to have that opposition, insight. But hopefully we can do it again sometime, maybe meet in the bowl game, or hopefully this continues on the road. So appreciate you for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Wow. That was all. However, I do have to say, after having that great interview with him, I just found out, right before our show, that they announced the uniforms that we're wearing.
Yeah, all white.
Stormtroopers. It's terrible.
Come on.
It's an outrage, Drew. It's a fucking outrage.
Johnny did not die for this, okay?
Johnny Majors would be sick if he saw us wearing white breeches, and I will die on that hill. I may have not been alive for the Johnny Majors era, but I know that man loved him some orange breeches, okay? And I know that, even though it's not a detrimental effect on this game going into this weekend, but dang, man, it would have been nice to go and get revenge wearing some orange breeches.
Pay homage, yeah.
Gotta free the orange pants. I swear, if we see the great before orange pants, I'm gonna lose it. Protest at the Rock with pitchforks, burning furniture. I'm not gonna go that far, but I will not.
You don't want to get banned from campus like the last year. The Rock.
Yeah. I also don't know. I mean, I don't really have an opinion on the orange pants. I'm a fan of the stormtrooper fits. But the one thing, and this is minor, and y'all probably gonna hate me for this, I can't stand the black cleats, dog. They look so tacky when they have an all-white uniform.
I don't think we were. I don't know. That's kind of weird because I remember when Heupel first came in here, it was like his whole kind of thing of like uniforms changing up and like the whole alternate things and like. Everyone hates the black cleats with it. I wonder if the social media team was kind of lazy to take like a format out of the Stormtroopers with the black cleats, because when I watched the Ball State game, everyone had on their own cleats. Like I saw a couple of black pairs, I saw a couple of white pairs. And I don't know if it's because it's an out of conference game, but I think some guys even had custom ones. Mm-hmm. So if that kind of changes here, I wonder if guys are just going to go all out white, because these college kids, they love the drip. They got a pair of white cleats they're going to wear. They're going to wear them white cleats.
Let's be honest though, like Heupel probably does not care at all. Okay, yeah, not like an idiot like Pruitt, where Pruitt's like, I'm a traditionalist. I'm going to wear black cleats because that's what we wore in 1993 when I played for Alabama. We wore black. Like Heupel probably doesn't give two shits on what these guys are wearing. Just put out the good product on the field. Just get that dub. That's all that matters at the end of the day. They could wear damn pink cleats for all I care. Just win.
Hey, it's always that look good, feel good, play good idea. I mean, if you more comfortable in something that looks good, like you obviously gonna be more comfortable, you're gonna be more relaxed, you're gonna be looser, you're gonna play well. So I mean, I'm with you. That's why I was like kind of like, I guess not turning up about it, but I was like, don't throw all those like tacky ass black cleats with the all white uniform. Like wear whatever you want and just like go ball out. That's me.
I'm just saying, man. Johnny is rolling in his grave.
Johnny didn't die for this.
Johnny is So one, I'm super excited to see the ceremony they have for Johnny in Pittsburgh this week after what we did last year. Two, I guess I want to give everyone the option. We have 7, YouTube viewers. I'm not sure how many on Twitter. I want to give everyone the option if you want to comment in the comments before we kind of get off here. Comment some Q&A, kind of discover that. I wanted to ask Drew and Alex, you both, Karl, getting off. What was your biggest takeaway? Because for me, it was kind of the injuries. It was more than I thought. I obviously heard about the edge rusher. I've heard about, the offensive linemen's kind of being banged up and, all those starters in the rough week they had. But that linebacker thing, not, learning how to line up and everything like that with the tempo. How many times last year against South Carolina, Missouri, did we see guys not lined up where Tennessee went out there and put up 45, 60 points? That's going to be huge for this offense. Last year, it was Joe Milton. This is Hendon Hooker, who's going to be locked in. It's personal for Hendon. He's not only played these guys here at Tennessee, but at Virginia Tech. He's 1-2 against them now. I think he wants this win. Josh Heupel wants this win. What was y'all's kind of biggest takeaway from Karl?
Yeah, the big surprising thing for me is I thought he was obviously, naturally going to be like, oh, the offensive line because we allowed 5 sacks. But for him to say that, like, the run defense is a major concern, and for them to, like, allow a freshman tight end to run 125 yards on them is, like, mind-blowing. But, I was thinking about that as he said that, that is where whether Tennessee's going to win this game or not, because we still, and they're small questions. We can all agree that there is talent in our running back room, but this is the moment for Jabari Small and Jalen Wright as well, big time, that they come up to play against a big time opponent and take advantage of their weak run defense. Because if we don't take advantage of that, I know their secondary is not very good, but they still got a really good defensive line that's going to put pressure on Hooker, despite having Desmond Alexander out for the game as well. So it all comes down to our offensive line. If they're able to hold up and allow to have those open holes for, Jalen or Jabari or even Dylan as well, to be able to get that big 15, 20, 30-yard run. So that was probably my biggest takeaway from it. And, guys, let's be real. We're going to whip their ass, all right? Like, I'm not, I was trying to be humble towards Karl, but like we're with.
Oh my God!
We're with.
Listen, I think as I get closer to game day, it's probably gonna be more and more closer for me. I don't know. I just think this Pitt team has a lot of talent. I think at wide receiver, obviously they didn't have over 100 rushing yards against West Virginia, but they did have a crazy amount of passing yards when they got heating up. That play action defense is gonna be key. I'm kind of worried about that with our corners and safeties of how able they're kind of to dial in on that play action play and not get beat deep. Like last year, what we saw to Sean Rucker, whenever that, I'm not to single anyone out, but when we saw DBs in the Purdue game, especially, get kind of burnt kind of there. That's just kind of something, the play action game is going to be key. Run stopping, our guys love to, gain tackles. So I think, if we can, stay tackling there, that might be key in the running game. But that DBs and, the pass game, the play action offense is going to be kind of scary. They're playing like it's 1955, like Coach Majors out there still coaching. So, just to be fair, like
just to make sure I heard that right, you said that like you're worried about their wide receivers, right?
Well, they lost Jordan Addison, right? But they have.
You're telling me that you don't think our secondary is going to do well? Good.
Drew, your whole take right there for the whole Pitt game was the secondary. I don't want to. You just said this 2 minutes ago.
First of all, it's called sarcasm, Brando. All right.
Whatever. Listen. I just think that I don't know, man. As long as we're out there, play action is gonna be key, man. That's all, man.
No, I agree completely with you, though. All jokes aside.
I know the freshman transfer that he was talking about, Memphis, that they brought in from Akron. I just know that there better not be one corner spotlighting him. I know that it should be a different corner. That's not number 4, but no, I agree with you, Drew. I was also kind of keying into the freshman tight end ran for 125 yards, but also kind of also buying into that problem of like their linebackers weren't getting lined up. If their defensive captain can't go, who's probably the one out there getting everybody lined up and getting everybody under control after a big play, or maybe he's the one like setting the tone himself by making a big play himself. That will even just throw their defense more into throw another wrench into their problems of saying like, dang, like now who do we look at? Like our leader's not out here. Like who are we supposed to look at? Like we just all run around like chickens with our head cut off. And then before you know it, there's 2 or 3 more offensive plays right at you from the Vols offense. So I think that if Hooker can extend plays with his legs, if he can be a threat on his own in the running game, because he only had 13 rush yards against Ball State. But if we get more quarterback design runs, if we get Jabari a little bit more active, keep Wright as active as he was, then I think the Vols gonna be just fine. Y'all goofy.
My cough drew sneeze, bro. Like, what the fuck? Nah, I'll give credit to Hendon, man. Even though he had 13 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. My biggest thing for Hendon running the ball last year, a lot of the times he didn't know how to make the read. Being the first year in the Heupel offense, kind of early. In the Ball State game, even though it's respectful, like again the 5th time, it's Ball State. This guy, he was watching the linebackers, watching the edge rushers, and he made the read to kick the ball. Jabari would have got smacked. And last year there was a lot of games where 4th and short, 3rd and 1, where we didn't get that first down. And Penning, can get his legs going. That knee's finally healthy after the Ole Miss game last year, even faster this year. I think, Pitt game will definitely see some running. I think that just how they're going to play and line up kind of deep to kind of cover up their missed gaps and, play with that offense and, only give up like short plays. I think that's going to give Hendon the ability to kind of run as well. You saw what Joe Millen did to him last year, even though he missed some balls respectfully. He also got some really good rushing guards. It was great on his feet. So definitely excited to see that.
But boys, big game on Saturday, 3:30 kickoff on ABC. First time the Vols have been on ABC since the battle at Bristol back in 2016, which is crazy to think. I'm thrilled to death. Obviously, if there's going to be any place that you want to watch this game at, it's definitely going to be Skybox Bar and Grill over on Saturday afternoon. Ricky and DJ and the boys over there are going to have that place rocking. Get yourself a nice little plate of nachos, nice little cold draft of Shiner Bock. Probably one of the
Sprite.
Shiner Bocks in town by a mile.
Some hot wings.
Don't get the hot. Get the hot wings, man. But be prepared, man.
Do not get the hot wings. But
unless you want to end up like me and Juice Davis, be prepared, man. Those things is no joke.
But obviously, nice little plate of wings, nice little beer, great little atmosphere. Obviously, I will be there in spirit, of course. I'll be traveling on Saturday, unfortunately. But not unfortunately, it's actually for a good reason. But, boys, what an episode. It was great to have Karl join us, get a little insight, a little different perspective on Pitt, what we should look forward to. I think there's going to be a lot of questions answered. And this is the biggest game probably for Tennessee and probably since I would say at least 2018. Easily, if not 2015. So a big game, put Tennessee back on the national map where they truly belong. And I think with the win over at Pitt, and if you do it convincingly, cover the spread, I think you're seeing a top 15 ranking within the next week. So
yeah,
huge game. So any last thoughts for both y'all?
I guess I'll say definitely the biggest game in a while. Obviously, this makes or breaks, the coaching search, but definitely the trajectory of Tennessee, recruiting, everything else. Last year, left a sour taste in a lot of the guys that are still in this roster now. Going in this year to a Pitt team, I definitely expect Tennessee to come out this week 2-0. I definitely expect to be back next Wednesday 2-0, and I think we're going to go out and get the win, man. I think that a crazy week 1 left them banged up. They kind of put a lot of energy in that rivalry game, but Tennessee's out here hungry. We want revenge. It's personal. I think about that Hendon Hooker first down play and that pick to end the game every night. And I'm ready to go out here and get this W, man. I think Tennessee wins this game, and we come back next week 2-0. Looking forward to Akron on a Saturday night. So,
no doubt. Absolutely.
Also, for those that love and follow Lo, she will also be back next Wednesday. So, just want to throw that out there. We did miss her today, but it's always good to get the boys together, talk some stuff, and also having Karl on, that was great. Definitely looking to get other people from other fan bases on because that was a ton of fun. It gives you just a different kind of insight. And you don't have to hear us ramble the entire time. You just get a different perspective on stuff. So that's really good. But, yeah, I see y'all Saturday at 3:30. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely. Who knows? Maybe we'll be able to get Matt Jones for the Kentucky game.
I just wanted to point out, that's 3 guests the past 3 episodes, and Trey Wallace, Christopher Gabriel, and now Kurt. Trey Wallace breaking the Brew McCoy news. Karl. I'm sorry. I can't remember Heinz Field and Acrisure. I can't remember nothing. I'm sorry. I love Karl. Karl is our best guest yet on the show, in my opinion. I love Trey, mentioned Brew. Christopher Gable being him and now Karl. So a huge W. Can't wait to see it back next week, 2-0, and I'm just excited, man. But that's probably gonna do it for us. Back live, full in effect next week. The Vols ATB crew. Shout out to Skyblock. Shout out to the Vols ATB crew. Follow us on all socials, and that'll do it for us. Until next week, guys. Go Vols.
Yes, sir.
Good night, go Vols.
Vols.